The Accursed People. As read by the author. Chapter 3. Free Laird! Magtar grimaced. This was a long time in coming, inevitable. His parents were saying as much on the other side of the thin wall. They didn't argue often, but when they did, he hid here inside his room. Please don't go, she begged. You know men never win. I know, Mh'leeda, but I must, in the very least for your honor. Honor? Magtar raged. Honor? How is there honor in death? Let me do it, father. I'm old enough now to fight, he interrupted, stomping into the common room. Magtar, don't you know your mother needs you? She's already gonna lose me. Don't bring this fate down upon yourself. There was a long pause. Surely he would kill us both were we each to challenge him. She's likely to end up on his trophy wall anyway, and you must be alive to rescue her. Free Laird! Magtar seethed. But father, couldn't we just escape? Run to another village where he could never find us? If you are insistent upon dying, don't you think I should have a say in this? Has it bothered you to think how it would affect me to lose the both of you? That is why you must live, he was interrupted. Free Laird, come out here. At this third call, Magtar's father only shook his shaggy head and strode out the door towards the roaring voice. Magtar yelled a guttural oath in frustration. Mother, how could you let him do this? Mh'leeda smiled sadly. I tried, son, but this is the way it has always been. Magtar, you know that. Jacet gets the women he wants in return for keeping our people safe. She gathered her cloaks and followed her husband, letting the door slam behind her. This is awful, but if I manage to sneak across the back way, I can get there before they do. Knowing father, he will insist upon meeting his enemy face to face. Magtar took up his sword and dagger. The voice bellowed again, Free Laird! Magtar perked his well-trained ears. His father had taught him the way of the scout, having spent many years hunting and fishing together. There, to the east. He cast his attention through the dense brush surrounding him and spotted the red fire dragon just outside the city gates. Already a huge crowd had gathered. He skirted the area and came up from behind. Jacet, you will fight me, and I will defeat you. Jacet turned. You? A pipsqueak? Ha! He proceeded to chortle, spraying spittle all over the gathered crowd. Pipsqueak! Magtar furrowed his brow and raised his weapons, ready for battle. Are you afraid? More laughter from Jacet and the crowd. The dragon raised a claw overhead as if to sweep Magtar from the earth. Jacet, this is between you and me. Leave my son out of it, Free Laird shouted. Mh'leeda arrived moments later to pull Magtar from the arena to the front of the mob. He wriggled from her grasp, but the dragon was already focused on his father and morphing into a human, the favored form of elemental dragons. It was done to satirize the weaknesses of humans, mind, body, and soul, and did nothing to even the odds, as some believed. Memphor, the wind dragon and sometimes lover of Jacet, was the one to think of it. She was usually with him on the days of a battle, though today she was absent. She enjoyed watching her ally ripping into the soft flesh of mortals. His strength was enough, he didn't need the claws of his dragon shape. After which she too would humanize and make love for hours in front of the women on his trophy wall. Now and again he would hunger for more and allow one or more to join. Jacet growled in anticipation. As Free Laird circled him, Jacet sauntered to Mh'leeda. Pushing past Magtar, shoving him into the crowd, Jacet grabbed her hair, yanked her head back, and smelled her. Though he was so close, the mob held Magtar at bay. You, my love, will make a tasty addition to my collection. He dragged his long tongue across her cheek. As he walked away, she spat at him. With a malicious grin as the spit dripped down the back of his tunic, he spun and slapped her across the face. She stumbled and fell. Magtar knew Jacet was going to enjoy taking her. It would be rough. Actually, the thought depressed him. She might not even make it to see tomorrow. Free Laird had seen it all. Now he lunged. Though he hadn't been expecting this, Jacet stepped swiftly out of range. Magtar cursed. Kill him, father, kill him! Free Laird tripped, rolled into a somersault, then back to his feet. He turned in enough time to parry Jacet, whose fist grazed the side of his head. He knocked the dragon man off his feet with a sweep of his leg and stood over him, triumphant. Jacet rolled to the left and scrambled to his feet, starting to perspire. They circled one another, jeers of the crowd urging them on, demanding bloodshed. Jacet made the first move, revealing a dagger which he made quick use of, leaving a large gash across Freylair's chest. Magtar continued to struggle against the bodies. The laughter engulfed him, his resolve strengthened. As he watched his father being continually knocked to the ground and slashed to bits, his vision blurred, and eventually he neither saw nor remembered the events which followed. Jacet stood, his left bare foot against Freylaird's windpipe. The human's fingers were clutched around the flesh, even pulling back the toes, trying to relieve the pressure. Out of nowhere, a blade sunk into the other one. Jacet shrieked, morphing into dragon form as he spun to face the offending party. The blade lifted into the air, stuck into his foot as he levitated, rasping. Instead of facing him, Magtar swooped around, slung his father over his shoulder, and sprinted towards home. The disappointment of the crowd followed him in hisses and boos. "Magtar, come back, son!" His mother's protest remained unheard. "This isn't over yet, boy," Jacet screamed. For now, though his foot was injured and bloody, he had other plans. He lifted off furiously into the sky, grabbing Mh'leeda as he winged towards his lair. His talons bit deeply into her flesh. She cried out for help, but it was too late. She was his. Magtar gently laid his father upon the cot in the healer's home. "Isn't there anything you can do for him?" The healer sighed, shook her head. "He's already too far into the grasp of Iak, I'm afraid. I can't bring him back now. Even if I could, would you really want me to?" The boy hung his head and began to weep. He grabbed clumps of his hair, yelling incoherently. Angry words streamed from his spittle-producing mouth. He punched a wall and left. He stayed in his house until the time came for his father's death celebration. Even then, he was barely any more animated than a living corpse. A couple of days afterwards, he went down to the lake where, before now, he'd always been able to find his calm, and sat on the shoreline. Mh'leeda wasn't in a mood to cajole him, filling his dominion with beautiful colors of the sunset, red and purple hazes spreading their fingers towards the place where Madame Sun and Madame Moon were switching duties. Near the horizon, the long flat clouds were darkening. "I think a storm's coming in," a sweet voice whispered. "I really don't care. Go away," Magtar replied. The girl, Lucinda, Magtar remembered, gathered her lavender skirts and sat beside him. She'd had something of a crush on him for a couple of years now. He'd thought it charming and never wanted to indulge her delusions. He wasn't prepared for anything serious, and he was sure she'd want to marry. She wrapped her arms around her knees, resting her chin between them. Her mouth was generous and red, skin fair as the legendary snow he'd never seen, and her hair was long and thick, enveloping her back where it now rested. She turned her head sideways to gaze at him. He was taken in for a moment by her brown eyes. They were huge and expressive. For another moment he could almost imagine loving her. He shook off the feeling, allowing his anger to return. "What do you want?" "I know how you feel." She picked at the grass. He smirked. "What could you possibly know about it?" "They aren't really my parents, you know. They told me when I was younger." She looked out over the sparkling water. "They said they found me out on the road in a destroyed wagon train." Magtar must have rolled his eyes and sighed loudly. "What, don't you believe me?" Her eyes became dewy. "That's it. Give in. Take her." "What? No, she hasn't done anything to me. She's only trying to help." "Help what? Help your desires for her sweet, full body? Or maybe to help you remember why you're so angry, how your father died in the arms of the healer, and how your mother was taken away from you? To remind you of how weak you truly are?" That's when he started to laugh. It was fairly dark when Magtar awoke. He was lying halfway in the water, tiny waves crashing over him. When he sat up, he saw something glinting in the moonlight. He swam out, senses alert. "What is that? Is that a skirt? Who would be out this deep still wearing so much clothing?" It was difficult to tell the color of the dress in the moonlight, but it sort of reminded him of Lucinda. "Oh, gods!" "That's right, Magtar." "Shut up! What happened?" "Don't you know you tried to drown the poor girl?" The laughter inside of his head was not his. It was different, maniacal. He tried his best to block it out, though it continued to echo. It was at this point he'd reached the floating cloth and recognized that it was indeed Lucinda lying there on the water's surface, skirts ballooned with trapped air. Her eyes were wide and expressionless, her mouth agape, skin and lips of matching pallor. He took her gently in his arms and swam them to shore. Should he try to pump the water out of her lungs? There was no way to know how long she'd been out there. The last he'd remembered, they were laughing. One of you were, anyway. The voice seemed to grin a terrible grin. He wept a few moments before stumbling back to the village, Lucinda's body draped across his arms. He weakly yelled for help, slowly gaining strength until people trailed from their houses in a clamor, Lucinda's parents among them. Her father spoke first. "What did you do to her? Did you take her swimming? You know she can't swim." "Oh, Lucinda, Lucinda, wake up!" He took her from Magtar's arms roughly, running towards the healer, who sidestepped him, blocking him from her hut. "You have to help her," he was shrieking. The healer remained calm, keeping an eye on Magtar as if reading his mind, or his soul. It didn't matter what anybody said, the man wouldn't hear of it. "This is my only daughter. I can't just give her up to Eoch." Finally, Lucinda's mother was able to talk him down. They crumpled into a 3-person heap on the healer's stoop. The healer had turned her attention and was now watching them while Magtar was watching her. Then she held a hand up. The ruckus quieted. She pointed to the girl's chest and then to Magtar. "I feel something. Did you try to take the water out?" He was too embarrassed to answer that he had thought about it but hadn't actually attempted it. "Fool child, I feel life inside of her still." "I'm no child, and one day all of you will know it." Having seen Lucinda revived, water spouting from her mouth, he'd retreated to the safety of his own home. The candles he'd lit in effigy for his father still burned on the mantel. With a heated swipe, they were on the floor. All but one had gone out. He crushed the flame beneath his heel. He paced the width of the common room, his hands on his head. He didn't know what had happened. What was I doing out there with her? Does this mean I'm an attempted murderer? Why would I want to kill her? She's just a harmless child, at least 4 years younger. She's sweet and kind, and it just doesn't make any sense. "So you say." The laughter returned, tormenting him. "Ugh!" He flung his hands towards the ground, leaving his hair as tousled and angry as he was. "Shut up! Get out!" After the celebration, he discarded his father's belongings here in what used to be his parents' bedroom in a messy pile. He rummaged through them now to find his father's sword. He hastened to the kitchen to dump all the breads and dried fruits he could find into an empty grain sack. There were a couple pounds of jerky which he took as well. It wasn't much, but it should keep him if he rationed. The events of the last few days, including the missing memories, made him realize he needed to leave. He had to get help. It was obvious he wouldn't find it here. Nobody would notice if he was gone. He grabbed his cloak and snuck out the back just in case. I hope you enjoyed the first 3 chapters of The Accursed People. You can find the entire book online in Kindle and paperback formats. For more of my writings, please subscribe.